Eye care expert, I got it today. Rockstar optometrist, I have it for you today. Myopia expert, friends and family, join me with the one and only Dr. David Kading. Let's go. This is a Defocus Media production.
Audio Jungle.
What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover.
And I'm Dr. Jennifer Lyerly, resident optometry nerd.
And welcome to Defocus Media, optometry's #1 podcast, where we discuss the hottest topics, latest technology, eyewear, practice management, and more. So sit back, relax, and defocus. What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover. Welcome to Defocus Media, the #1 optometry podcast, where we discuss everything from the latest trends, the hottest topics, and most importantly, myopia. And today we have an amazing guest with us that's going to really dive deep into his story, his journey, but also share with us how we can make myopia more mainstream. Because let's be real, let's keep it honest. We are not doing a great job as optometrists educating about myopia. And we got an epidemic on our hands, and it's up to us to save these eyes and save these lives, but make sure that our patients are fully aware. And today we got the expert, my man, David, on the call to really have this conversation and kind of navigate and narrate this conversation with me today. What's going on, my friend? How you doing today?
I'm great, my man. It's good to see you. Thanks for letting me be on the podcast. It's been too long.
Hey, man.
I think I look back and you invited me several years ago. We didn't make it work out, but here we are. We're live and we're doing it.
We're live and we're doing it, and we're looking forward to hearing your expertise. And, I'm just thankful for you, man. I'm thankful that, you have taken the lead. You're one of the shining stars out there in eye care that understand this problem, but making noise about it and making a change. And today I really want to kind of navigate the world of myopia. But before we get there, I always like to know who I'm talking to, who am I having a conversation with. So if you don't mind, maybe sharing a little bit about your background, David. Maybe start from the beginning, where you're from, where you grew up at, where you went to school, and where you're at right now.
You bet. So I grew up in South Dakota. I love that state. It's such a great place. I currently live in Seattle. I moved out west after undergrad to go to grad school. And in grad school, met this beautiful woman who helped my grades go up as a classmate. And we started studying together, and both of us elected to do a residency. I did mine in cornea and contact lens, wanted to stay at the school because I loved teaching, I loved research, and I loved seeing the specialty patients. Fast forward, I'm doing all that in my own practice. I have a 3-location practice in the Seattle area that I own with my wife. And it's called Specialty Eye, and we do specialty eye care. So the 4 things that we do is myopia management, specialty dry eye, specialty contact lenses, and binocular vision, vision therapy. We have a vision therapy clinic. And I got a great team of people that, are supporting us in the background. I have 2 podcasts, the Optometric Insights show, or the OI show, and the Myopia podcast. I lecture all over the world on contact lens dry eye and myopia management. Write a ton of articles. So trying to get the word out there on some of these cool things that are happening, and have 3 beautiful, lovely little ladies that call me daddy. And my wife is, like I said, my business partner, but also such an incredible part and supportive member of my team, helping me be able to go out and do this. And my ultimate mission in life is to enrich people's lives so they can succeed to their greatest potential. So we do that in clinic. I do that with a resident. I have a resident in my practice who works with me.
Okay.
And education is just a big part of what we do, educating doctors in our surrounding area and all over the world.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And that's what we're going to do today. We're really going to educate, other eye care professionals, but we're also going to educate, patients that are out there, because we get a little bit of everything that listens to this podcast, from seasoned ODs to new graduates to optometry students to even patients, right? So today I really want to dive deep in myopia, and I want to just kind of start from the beginning and just really discuss what is myopia, right? Because there's a lot of folks out there that may keep hearing this buzzword, but have no clue what it's truly about. So if you don't mind, just, taking it from the beginning, and we're going to kind of evolve from there.
Yeah, well, so I think we're all very familiar with myopia being this thing that is nearsightedness. And the tough part about myopia is that it really is much more than a refractive error. Um, and that's been what we were all taught in optometry school. But the reality is that this is a disease that is a progressive condition.
Absolutely.
It's chronic, it's progressive, and it leads to degradation of tissue. We That's a disease. And so our definition of myopia is no longer that it is, this condition that causes blurry vision, but that's one of the symptoms of it. It is a disease that causes eyeball elongation, resulting in reduced vision, progressive vision loss, and increased risk of disease. And that's what myopia is. We see that as people's prescriptions that are increasing, but where we really see this as the downfall of so much in eye care is what happens at the end of life because of the decisions that we've made throughout life, which is what really is happening with most disease, like diabetes and so forth, right? Preventable,
Yeah.
and we just have to take the right steps to do that.
Well, the one thing that I love that you mentioned, and you said it so many times, and I hope everyone caught it, is the word disease, right? I
It's
mean, when you
true.
bring that into the picture outside of just a refractive error, that really changes the game. That really changes the conversation. And that really gets everyone on alert like, oh, disease? I don't want a disease. What should I do
Mhm.
about this? Please educate me. Tell me a little bit more. So, what I would like to do next is really just, talk about, why should eye care professionals care about myopia? Why should we be having this conversation in the exam lane? I mean, clearly,
Yeah.
knowing that it's a disease should make every eye care professional have this conversation. But for those that have been living under a rock and not having this real conversation with their patients, why should they even care?
Yeah. Yeah, so, the definition needs to change, and that's exactly what we hit on. I'm gonna say it again. It's a progressive disease that causes eyeball growth, resulting in higher disease risks, blurry vision, and changing prescriptions. So, to answer your question, I wanna talk about, my patient whose name is Steven, and
Okay.
he had seen me for years and years and years, and, is one of those guys where he just it was like, when we first started in practice, we remember those patients with weird prescriptions, and he was that guy with the -14.
Wow.
Saw him every year. Never could I convince him to do contact lenses, but he just had thick glasses. And, I just remembered this guy and, we saw him. And then he had cataract surgery and his life changed,
Yeah.
right? His life was completely revolutionized. I remember the smile on his face when he came in for his post ops and it's really helped this guy. But guess what?
What's that?
His risk for progressive disease did not go away because he could see better, right?
Mm,
For all intents and purpose, what we used to think of myopia was cured by his cataract surgery. He didn't have this nearsightedness anymore,
right.
but he had eyeball growth, and now he is having retinal disease, macular disease, and he's being followed on a yearly basis for glaucoma progression. He's, 63 years old, so he's a young guy, but he has this, and so it made me think, Daryl, who are the little Stevens in my
Mm,
practice? And, we wait for the end of life for us, and not I don't mean end of life, but older in life that
right.
we're treating and managing these progressive disease patients. But what are we doing to turn the spigot down? What are we doing to
Yeah.
shut that off so it doesn't happen? And my challenge to eye care providers, if you don't think this is a disease, is to look at your patient population that you're managing: glaucoma, macular degeneration, retinal disease, things in the back of the eye, early cataracts, right?
Yeah.
And ask yourself, what was this patient's refractive error prior to cataract surgery, or what is their refractive, error right now?
Yeah.
And I guarantee you'll see this huge trend that most of
Yeah.
them are myopes, right? And,
No doubt.
the other thing, Gerald, is when I was in optometry school, I was celebrated as being, this -1 myope, right? For this beautiful thing of once I turned 40, which happened a couple years ago, that I was gonna get to see up close and not have to wear reading glasses. I, like, had the perfect prescription. Guess what? My risk for glaucoma is 2 times greater than the person who's an emmetrope sitting next to me. Who of us would say, I'll take a 2 times greater risk of a disease that could cause vision loss? None of us would do that, right? But we've just historically looked at myopia as just being a number, not a risk factor, and it is.
And I love that you're talking about the impact of myopia, right? Like you gave that scenario, right? But there's tons of people in the world. What is that going to do to the future of the workforce, the future of, our kids? How is that going to impact the future of folks when it comes to myopia not being controlled or managed? I mean,
Yeah,
this is very scary
pretty
stuff.
big.
Trying to think about it, my friend.
It is pretty big, so you're here to give you some numbers. Singapore, 75% of the population is myopic. We go up to Hong Kong,
Gosh,
80% of the population. In mainland China, it's about 90% is myopic. In South Korea, 97% of the population is myopic. And in
mm,
the United States, it's getting close to 50%.
wow,
So, think about this. If is China is seeing this as a major concern because of the future of their military. They're going to run out of people that they can have be fighter pilots,
oh my
unless they
goodness,
change the protocol for that. If we look at our population being 50% myopes, and the 50% has a 2 times greater risk or higher, we're not even grasping what's going to be happening with regards to refractive error and so forth.
right,
And we're talking about the disease component, and that's impactful for practitioners, but for the patients who are out there, right? We can't always just scare the patient to being like, hey, you're going to have this disease. We need to stop this. The real
right,
impact for a kiddo, and I think about this as I go swimming with my little girls all the time, right? Is if you've got a 3 minus 2, 3, or 4, you can't see who is across the swimming pool.
right,
And I'm swimming with my kids, and we're playing across the swimming pool with each other. Refractive errors have a huge impact on our quality of life from the perspective of playing and interacting and doing sports,
right.
functioning in music and so forth. And so there's a quality of life impact that goes towards this myopia. And we're just talking about general myopia. We're not even talking about high myopia
Right.
for patients. And that's where it really becomes difficult. But even just generalized myopia, as you and I both know, is a pain in the butt,
Oh yeah.
let alone these disease risks that are out there, right?
Yeah. It's amazing to me that, this problem's been around for a while. We've been just kind of twiddling our thumbs more than anything, right? And I'll be honest, when I first got out of school, I paid no attention to it. And am I one of those doctors that, do ortho K and a lot of atropine? No. But if there's something that I can handle with my MySight lens, I do it. If there's something that I can't handle, I refer to one of my colleagues over in my organization and my eye doctor that's a myopia expert, right? But I don't just sit on it, right? I make sure
Yeah.
that I make a change, I make a shift, and I put that patient in the right place. I guess we've broken down what the definition of myopia is, right? We've talked about the impact of myopia. How do we make this conversation more mainstream? How do we make this conversation sexy? How do we get our eye care professionals to really sit down and have that real conversation? How do we make this magic happen? Because clearly you're doing a damn thing in your office, right? Now, I know
Yeah.
your secret sauce is definitely that lovely young lady that you're married to, and she's making all the magic happen. But you got to share some of the juice with us, man. We got to
Yeah.
learn a little bit more. So, how do we make it sexy? How do we make it mainstream?
Yeah, I don't mean to continue to go back to it, but it's that
Yeah.
definition is if you don't believe it, then you won't. But
Mm,
if you do truly believe it, there's no way you can avoid it. And we have been dealing with this problem for a long time, but this
yeah.
problem is getting worse and worse and worse. My mentor has a museum down in Oregon for eye care stuff, right? And in his museum of eyeglasses dating back hundreds of years, no myopic correction glasses, right? He can't find any myopic corrections. They're all hyperopic correction glasses. And it's because we are seeing this problem increase, over the pandemic alone, we saw a
Sure.
huge upswing in this, and you're seeing it in your practice. I'm seeing it in my practice.
Yeah.
The real aspect here of what we have to do to make myopia mainstream in our practice is believe that it's a problem and realize that the solution is not that complicated. The reality is finding the solution is not that complicated. What really was a big trigger for me, and I've been doing myopia management for 15 years, is when I was able to start implementing axial length into my practice. And Daryl, you see people with, on your podcast all the time with all the fancy widgets and gadgets and
Oh,
so
yeah.
forth. And I'm that guy. I buy everything that's out there. Um, but I've come to a rule, and this is a grid practice management rule that I really encourage all doctors to think of is don't buy one instrument that can only do one thing from now on. Buy instruments that can do multiple things. And I wasn't going to buy an instrument that only did axial length. I needed to find something that could do multiple different things and replace something else in my office. And now we've got 3 or 4 of those that are on the market. For example, the Oculus Myopia Master does autorefraction and keratometry and axial length. There's a device called the Maya Topcon. It does topography and all this other stuff and axial length. So, when you're ready to buy a new instrument, buy something that has axial length. We should all be doing that within the next 5 years, as in when we started doing glaucoma, we started getting into OCT, and many of us have OCTs nowadays. That is what is going to really start setting you apart and really convincing you. The next thing is to realize how simple it is. And I'm going to challenge you, my man.
Yeah.
Here is a thing that I'm going to challenge you in. My site is super simple and
Yeah.
super easy. But what if I told you, do you fit multifocal contact lenses in your
I do.
practice? What if I told you that orthokeratology is as easy as fitting soft multifocal lenses? Here's some studies that show that with
Okay.
about 80 to 90% first fit success of the first 2 lenses that you put on the eye, that's better than my soft multifocal fit success, right? How often am I like, 2 lenses and then I'm done? But with 80 to 90% success of those first 2 lenses with most of the lenses on the market today. The other thing that I'm going to say is that our real big bit of success when it comes to myopia management is not vision correction. Good example, atropine, right? When we think about using atropine, we don't think about it being, something that's going to give the kid great vision. But for some reason, our expectation is that with any other treatment, it has to give the patient perfect vision. And the reality is that some of the best myopia management correction with ortho K or soft multifocals will actually decrease the crisp clarity of vision that a child will get. And so if we go into it with the expectation of perfect vision, we will not succeed very highly. And one of the best mindset changes that I had was sitting down with the parent and saying, we're going to do some things that'll slow down the progression of myopia. And there's a good chance we'll actually get them to see reasonably well. They may still need to wear glasses occasionally for refinement of their vision, which most nobody does because I have them at about 20/25 or better in most cases. But I celebrate 20/30 vision when I get it with myopia management with ortho K or a soft multifocal, right? And then we correct anything beyond that with glasses. But doctors think they have to have the vision perfect in order for it to be successful. And if that's the case, what they're really focusing on is the prescription, not the slowing of the myopia. And that's where our emphasis has to be. Take my kids. I'll be glad for them to have 20/25 vision if I can stop the progression of their myopia, right? When they become 16, that will change. And I'll start focusing really highly because I know that they're actually seeing a lot better at 20/25 than most kids that are out there anyway, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, man. You just dropped a lot of gems. I mean, oh my goodness, you're like a gold mine, a diamond mine. I mean, everything that you stated. I'm not gonna lie, man. I haven't heard it. I'll be honest, because the way you phrase it, the way you look at myopia control is completely different. I mean, to even say, this is not vision correction, no one's having that conversation,
No.
right? So that's a different twist on things. And something that I love that you stated, which we don't hear enough of, is in order to really make this mainstream, we got to believe.
Yeah.
You got to believe. If you don't believe in something, how the hell are you going to, pursue it and make it better for that person that's sitting in front of you?
Yeah.
And when you start thinking about, again, that buzzword of disease, I mean, that's just huge, man. You really start to change your mind shift, because when you look at dry eye, when you look at macular degeneration, when you look at glaucoma, you're not going to sit on that stuff. Number one, you're scared you might catch a lawsuit, right?
No. Yeah.
Number two, you're also afraid they may lose their vision, right? Or some type of reduction in vision. So why are we not looking at myopia
Yeah.
control and management the same?
Let's imagine that our children growing taller was a problem. Never once would we go to the pediatrician and have the pediatrician say, well, we'll see. Let's see if next year they get bigger, right? We have growth charts that tell us exactly what will happen. If I can know where you are today at a certain age, I will know where you will be tomorrow. But what eye care providers are doing is they're saying, well, if over the next year it increases some more, then we'll maybe do something. That's kind of like saying, with pressures of 25, let's see what happens to the optic nerve. We know
Right,
exactly. We have the
right.
data to prove it. And that aspect of just let's see, let's wait
Yeah.
isn't a good viable option anymore, my man, right?
Yeah. No, I love it. Again, I keep saying this, the word disease is just, when you mention that, it hit me, right? And something I want to add to that, because one thing I notice a lot of new graduates and even some seasoned doctors do this, is they always say recommend, right? Now you got this word disease where you can say, I am going to prescribe, keyword prescribe, ortho K, to help manage this disease that we see that's taking place here. It's just crazy how the words you use can really shift the entire dynamic of
Mhm.
what that conversation looks like. Now, the key is really making sure that our colleagues get this message, right? And I would love to maybe dive into some of the resources that you leverage, so that
Yeah.
our colleagues that are listening to this can really go to those resources and have that conversation and listen to it, but implement what they hear into their practice. And I would love to start with your podcast, because I know you have
Yeah.
some amazing content. So maybe kind of walk us through, where folks can listen to that podcast, and then also some of the content that you typically cover.
Yep. So I have a podcast. It's called The Myopia Podcast, and you can find it anywhere podcasts are found. We've just celebrated our second anniversary, and it came out of the pandemic of me not getting to talk to my favorite people about myopia. And I've got another podcast that's a little bit older, and we do general optometry stuff. It's called the OI Show, but the myopia podcast started off within the OI show, and it was just I wanted to talk more about myopia. I wanted to make my practice better, and I wanted to learn from researchers. And how often, right? You and I know this. How often do we talk with a colleague at a meeting and we're like, man, I wish I was recording that for the podcast, right? And that's what it was, is how often did I just have meetings with other people? And I'm like, dude, that so many people would have loved to have heard that information. So yeah, we have over 60 episodes that are on there. And we're talking with researchers, clinicians, we're talking with industry people, we're talking with people who do ortho K, who do soft lenses, we do, atropine, like anything related to myopia management. and we're just getting started. You know that as we dive more into these podcasts, like there's more stuff that we want to talk about, and it just feeds the beast. So that's a really great resource that doctors that I consult with and doctors that I'm working with and chat with in when I do continuing education and so forth, they're always coming up and saying, "Hey, I loved this episode or this episode," and you know, I'm not the star of the show. I just get to talk to all these amazing people, and I learn so much from them. And so that is a resource that is available. We're launching the Myopia website.com, and that's going to be out shortly after we put this podcast. That's out there and so forth. And so that's a really good resource as well. That'll be coming out in the next month or so, the Myopia podcast. And then we're also going to be launching the Myopia newsletter as well. And so all these sort of things are coming out. Along with that, a resource that I always recommend people bring in is an easy one is the Brian Holden Vision Institute's myopia calculator. The reality is we're all managing myopia. We're either managing it while it gets worse or we're managing it while we're stopping it. You do manage myopia. There isn't a management of myopia. So in us talking about making myopia management mainstream, it is. We're just doing a horrible job as a profession. But if you got on every single pediatric patient and you showed on this free website, the Brian Holden Vision Institute myopia calculator, and you just said, this is where you are, this is where you will become, just showing them on that growth chart will really make an impact for parents and for you as well as a clinician. And that's a really great resource. I've also seen, that Hoot is a really good resource for clinicians, and it does some information on how to educate parents and how to educate practitioners on how to do myopia management, how to implement it and get it in better into your practice through marketing stuff. And then I am a member of Treehouse Eyes. And I'll tell you a quick little story about that. I also did a podcast about this.
Yeah.
Is, Daryl, I've got, I'm pretty well tapped out in my practice. Every single pediatric patient is in myopia management or I've scared them away. And the realization of, the couple hundreds of kids that we have in our practices, it's just not enough. That's not enough people doing myopia management in my community, and there's not enough doctors that are doing it. If we had 10,000 doctors doing myopia management, seeing 300 patients apiece in myopia management, we would be maybe effective. But there's not 10,000 people, and there are very few clinicians because we're estimating 3 million myopic children.
Right.
But there are very few clinicians that are doing more than 50. And that's because they just dabble a little bit in it. And so I decided about not quite a year ago, I said to myself, how do I get to 1,000? Like my goal is 1,000 kids, and I'm not there yet. I'm far from it, but we've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids. But how do I do 1,000 a year? And who can best help me get there? And that's what Treehouse Eyes is all about, is they are intended to help you grow your practice in myopia management, help teach you how to better convert people into doing myopia management, how to share with those patients throughout the journey about the process, teaching your staff and your team about it, and then having physical resources, both for your team, for you in the clinic, in the exam room, and then for the patient. And that's been a huge benefit to us in our practice. We are, I've been doing it for 15 years.
Yeah.
By all intents and purposes, I'm successful. I don't consider myself successful because we haven't seen 1,000 kids, but we're successful in it, but yet we got to be better. And so if you're interested in looking to how do you go to the next level? These are some of the resources that, are available. Something like Treehouse Eyes, I'd be happy to share with you. It's not the perfect thing for everybody, but it's really beneficial. The Brian Holden Vision Institute, something like Hoot for marketing. Trios does marketing as well. Those are some of the big ones. Review of Myopia Management, fantastic publication that comes out on a regular basis. And then Pentavision has a newsletter, Mastering Myopia, that some incredible people have put out. And then the Myopia Profile website is a really good resource for both parents as well as clinicians. Kate Gifford and her husband just did an incredible job with that website. I really appreciate what they're doing in that arena. So I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, no, fantastic, man. These are all great resources, and this is what we need, right? A lot of us may not know that these resources are out there, so I really appreciate that. And I want to give a shout out to Dr. Knight. She commented on what you mentioned earlier. 300, that's less than one per day. We can do this, and I agree with you. We can end myopia, but we have to do it together. Another great resource, and I've done some work with them, is All About Vision. They have a fantastic myopia hub where you can go in and learn about myopia. They can talk about treatments. And this is a great resource for, your team members in your office to look at and learn a different terminology and the different studies, but most importantly, that you can also leverage with your patients, right?
Yeah.
So it's great opportunities out there. We just got to present them to our team members and be aware of what's there. Because the last thing you want, and I always say this on, whenever I'm talking about technology, is a patient to come in asking about something and you don't have the answer to it,
right?
Especially when it's something like myopia control or management in general, right? So we got to make sure that we stay on top of it.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm gonna sorry to interrupt you. If you're like, hey, I want to do more of this, one of the best meetings for that is the Vision by Design meeting, which is put on by the American Academy of Orthokeratology and Myopia Control, an organization all around ortho-K, myopia control, and they put on something called the boot camp. And the boot camp is just like the nuts and the bolts. Let's get you started. And they really launch everything. Again, I've been doing this for a long time, but last year we went to the meeting. I took my associate and I took my resident, and both of them walked away and said, hey, Dr. Dave, you've got to send every new resident to this meeting, because it was just like it got them going, And by the end of my residency, my residents have fit 200-300 people with myopia management. And for them to say, this is the one thing, it really, really helped that. There's a global myopia meeting as well. And then the myopia meeting is put on around the country. So those are really good places to go to really get fired up about myopia management.
I love it, man. I love it. This has been fantastic. I have two last questions, and I'm gonna have to bring you back on the show, man. We might have to make this an annual event and get a myopia update, right?
Sure.
But one question that I have is, there are doctors that want to do this and they've presented it to a patient and that patient told them no.
Yeah.
How do you combat that conversation in the exam lane with that patient so it doesn't kill that doctor's confidence, but most importantly, we're able to take care of that kid's life in their eyes moving forward?
So I talk about how do we get people to go from no to let's go, right? So how do you make that conversion? And that's a tough one. And the reality is that you never accept no as a final answer. A no today may be a yes in a week or 2 or 3. And so if people say no in our practice, that's fine. They just don't believe yet. And so we need to give them the appropriate resources. We don't do myopia management consultations at the time of the exam because there's just not a time enough for it. And so here is what I would recommend, and stop me if I'm going too long on this. During the eye exam, I'll always share with the patient and the parent that this is what I'm finding today. These are the results that I'm observing, and here is what is concerning me. That's a really, really impactful thing, right? Whether it's glaucoma, dry eye, whatever it is, like, here's the stuff, but this is what's concerning me.
And that concerning is safe, right? Because if you say certain words, they can really
here's where you're going to go blind, right? We don't say that.
Right. And I use the word concerning quite a bit in my practice as well. And I've noticed over the years, that's when patients, if they're looking at their phone, the parent, they look up, right? It really starts that conversation in a smooth place or a great place. So continue on. Sorry, I just had to add that in.
No, love it. So this is what's concerning me. And I'm seeing that the prescription is increasing. And why that concerns me is it looks like it's going to continue to increase unless we find a way to slow it down. I'd like to bring you back and do a consultation. There's no cost to this consultation. Bring you back, do a consultation where we can review a little bit more data and I can get a little bit more information and find out if there's a way that we can slow this down.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I'm going to have resources. Treehouse has video series that we have the parent watch via text message that I send them and so forth. And so they're all prepped. They've got most of the questions that they've had. The frequently asked questions are already answered when they come back. And now we lay the groundwork for why the patient needs to move forward. They still may say no, and that's just fine. We're going to see them back in another month or two and see what progression has taken place. But we will show the parent that their child is progressing until they say yes or they say, I'm out, right? And people are wondering, well, how can you do that in a busy practice? Well, the reality is your practice is not busy enough to stop myopia, right? You need to find a way to stop this. And there are tools regarding practice management of how to go about that, working with your team, working with resources that are available from major companies like CooperVision and Euclid and Paragon, whoever it may be. They've got resources of how to implement that, and you can do it even in a super busy practice. And so we can spend that time and have a myopia coordinator in our practice who helps with this. That's just the tech who thinks it's interesting, right? And have them work with you. But nobody ever is a no. It's always a great, no problem. Here's some resources from you. Let's go ahead and schedule back a free visit where we can recheck to see that if there is any progression. And after you've shown that progression enough, the parent has either got to be like, you know what, I can't handle this anymore and I'm going to quit coming, or I've got to move forward and do something to help this kiddo.
Yeah. I love it, man. Solid advice, game-changing advice. I love it. I got to ask you, rock star optometrist, myopia expert, has really changed the game, true educator. You've done so much in the industry, right? But when it comes time to hang up your phoropter, when it's your time to retire and step away from this amazing profession, what do you want to be known for, man? Because you've done so much from, anterior segment, myopia control, practice management. You're an educator. You've done everything. But what do you want to be known for, David, when it's your time to retire, my friend?
Yeah, I want to be known, words that if they could go on my gravestone would be generosity, right? I want to be known as being a generous person. Most important to me is my faith in Jesus, and being a daddy, being a husband. Those are things that I really, really, want to win at in life. All the other stuff, right? Great. I want to help patients. I want to help doctors and so forth. But those are things that I really want to win at, is my faith and my family. Those are really, really key things. With regards to optometry, I want to be known for enriching people's lives so they could succeed to their greatest potential, right? I want to strive and push people to know that their potential can be higher and they can get there, and then help them find the tools to do that. And that's what I do with my consulting on a regular basis. I'm, an advisor to several companies, and it's just like, how do we push you to be better so you can help other people be better?
Right.
And those are areas that I just, I love. And, if I can be successful at helping do that and make doctors better, I'll be a happy man.
Well, hey, man, you're already doing that. And clearly you have strong faith, and I'm a man of God myself. And it's just always great to always hear this constantly on my podcast, right? And it makes sense now with the whole believe, right? You can take that believe in that exam lane and believe in myopia, but when you believe the man up above, man, the game changes for you and all those that are around you as well.
True.
So I want you to continue the great work, man. But I know there's a lot of people out there that probably want to partner with you. They want to learn from you. They want you to come in their practice and consult and build a better myopia practice. What's the best way for them to get in contact with you to make that magic happen, my friend?
Yeah, so it's pretty easy. We've got the social channels is probably the best way to do that, and it's
Yeah.
at Dave Kading. So any of those sort of things, you can reach out to me through social. I'm happy to have you email me as well, which is drdave, Dr. Dave at specialtyeye.com. You're welcome to email me anytime. I have way too many emails in my inbox, as most all of us do. I run an
Oh
email
yeah.
zero. I run email zero, and so it's if it's not at zero, it's we've got work to do. But yeah, so Dr. Dave at Specialty Eye, I'm happy to chat with you, and through social media, I'm happy to chat. If I'm at a meeting, happy to answer questions. Come up and grab me. And yeah, if there's information on my podcast that is helpful in any way, love to share, love to connect. Let me know.
Love it, man. Thank you so much for being on the show, David. I've greatly appreciated you. I greatly appreciate the knowledge that you bestowed upon the entire eye care industry, but also the patients out there that are listening. And for all my colleagues that are listening, you got to believe. You got to use that key word, disease. You got to prescribe the right solution for that patient. Don't just write a prescription for glasses and send them on their way, especially if you see that eye is starting to elongate, especially if you see that prescription starting to change. It is your duty, your job as an eye care professional to do something about that myopic change. Please step your game up. Together, we can make this mainstream. Together, we can change the eye care industry. But most importantly, we can change that little kid's life. Thank you again, David, for being on the show. Until next time, my friends, stay healthy, positive, and blessed. And we'll see you next time.
All right, colleagues, and it's a wrap. Thank you dearly for hanging out with the Defocus Media team. We hope truly something resonated with you. And if it did, be sure to give us 5 stars and make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. And until next time, be sure to keep it 2020, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.